We always talk about how there's so many single guys in our community, any community, and so many single girls, and until now we haven't figured out how to just get them together.
AlMaghrib Institute presents Q&A with Kamal al-Mekki.
You know what's interesting is if you go to any community across North America, the establishment of that Muslim community typically revolves around one, establishing the 5 daily prayers, Jummah and Eid, right? And, Ramadan stuff. And then in addition to that, they're like, all right, we're growing. The next thing they figure out is how do we have a hall to get people married? Not help them get married. Do we have a hall to get them married? And what do we do to bury our dead?
Yeah.
Right? Beyond that, like that's where I would say like 90% of our communities kind of get stuck at. Right?
So there's a lot of problems, obviously, that need to be resolved. But I feel like just one that's a pet peeve of mine, personally, that's why I'm going to bring it up, is lack of communication. Bad communication skills. Why a lot of people aren't married. Especially if I'm going to pinpoint, if a brother is over 30 years old and still unmarried, because we all are aware that there are lots of women who are willing, ready to get married.
I would think somebody who's 30 and not married is a choice.
Yes. So what I was going to say is, no, but some of them want to get married, or at least they say they want to get married.
Yeah.
But they have poor communication skills, which end up like, you need matchmakers to some degree. You need the Shaykh Kamal who's traveling here and knows, this community here and that community there.
Yeah.
But for me, I can tell you, like, when I think of a brother, and I've had this happen enough times for me to be very frustrated, is think of a brother from this community, great family from this community. I'm talking about over 30. This is not some 20-year-old. I can excuse them. But over 30 who should have, like, by now,
they're adulting.
They should know what they're looking for, to the point where if the introductions happen, it is unacceptable for you to ghost. It is unacceptable for you to all of a sudden get busy after you've been introduced. So for 2 weeks go by, you haven't initiated. Yes. Has this happened to you, Sheikh?
It's happened to people that I connected with each other, and I felt both of them were a perfect match. One of them ghosted the other.
They just literally didn't be like, yo, this is not going to work.
And then
see that communication where you can, like a grown person, apologize and say, this, I don't see that this is going to be able to happen for this.
Yeah.
But to simply disappear, it happens frequently.
Let me tell you something, okay? My wife and I, for the last 5 years, she has a WhatsApp group with all these sisters who are looking to get married, okay? And she used to even do weekly sessions with them.
Was that like marriage training or what?
All kinds of things, communicating, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the problem wasn't that group. The problem was my group.
Yeah.
Okay, the brothers I had. So, shout out to Bakr from New Jersey. Bakr, I spoke to him over the phone. He was telling me, same problem. He said, my wife has 25 sisters, absolutely qualified, ready to get married. He said, on the other hand, I had only 2 brothers. And by that meaning that they're religious and they have a career. Whereas you can find a lot of guys with careers, no deen whatsoever. And you can find guys with deen.
No career whatsoever.
No degree, no career, no him, nothing. All right?
Yeah.
He said there were 25 girls and I had only 2 guys in the same age group and everything. He said, so for these 2 guys, they could pick from 25. It's like The Bachelor. Like, would you take this rose? But so that was my problem on my list. Like the guys are just... And then the requests and the demands, and she has to be this and she has to be that.
I can. It's frustrating too. Like, that's unrealistic. But even the demands is like a person knows what they want. But if a person's reached a particular age, and they still are not able to articulate to you, these are the 5 things I'm looking for.
I think
mention the ethnicity, mention the religiosity, mention the degree, mention the family, mention the state, whatever. But just have your list. Know what you want.
Many of them say those things, but they're not clear on what that means. They might say religious, but what's their idea of religious?
What does that mean? Exactly.
Right? Yeah. They might say, in terms of like financially stable. Like, what does that look like? These are subjective realities. And I feel like what might help perhaps in helping these gentlemen get hitched is, instead of saying what you want, maybe get clear on what's a genuine deal breaker.
Of course, you have to know. I always say you have to know your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
So whether it's deal breakers or whether it's
and like,
I need to have these.
But it's got like you can't. It should not be more than like 2 or 3. If you
and you have to have the understanding that your non-negotiables for the right person will become negotiable. Like that, and that happens too.
I know.
Well, it does happen. So
okay.
you have the person who
There's
says,
not really a non-negotiable.
No. For the right person, you have the girl who says, "I will not marry somebody for sure who's taller than me. Or shorter than me." Hold on.
Okay, yeah.
For her, that might be a non-negotiable for 90 guys.
Okay.
And then there's that one guy who's hilarious or who's very whatever, and all of a sudden he's shorter than her, and she makes it happen.
Yeah.
Like that does happen. So you have to have that maturity where it's like, I have my non-negotiables, but I recognize for the right person, you know what, I might.
For me, one of the deal breakers before I got married was like, you know what, if they are a student of Al-Maghrib, no
way, huh?
And guess what? If you had met a girl who was a student of Al-Maghrib.
I met many women.
Hold on one second. If you had met, you didn't meet her, but if you had met a girl who was a student of Al-Maghrib, who was wearing an Okinawa ibaya, okay?
No, that was like, that to me was like, yo, absolutely not.
We need a shot of the t-shirt. Show them the t-shirt. Show them the Okinawa. And she had a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and she was walking around saying, man, I can't stand being in this classroom.
Like, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She's like, guess what? All of a sudden.
You know what would be funny is instead of the Okinawa abaya, she might have been wearing one of them Naruto outfits.
Maybe.
As her. That would be funny. But what's funny is my wife is actually a big anime fan. She had, like, I was into anime, but like my wife got me more into anime. But like, no, but for me, like that was clarity. In the sense of like, you know, I don't care. And the other deal breaker was like, if somebody were to try to connect me with somebody, and it's a little bit more strict, but my thing is that person better know personally, full well, both myself and the person they're trying to connect me to. Not that they're connected to someone who knows them well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that was my thing. And that's how, you know, and my wife happened to be one of my friends. His wife's cousin is now my wife. Right. And so, and they both knew me.
There are a lot of people who would be like, back to my pet peeve. I feel like if a brother like was introduced to a sister and it didn't work out, and he came back to me and he said, Jazakallah khair, this is the reason why it didn't work out, blah, blah, blah. I would turn around to that brother and be like, okay, we got another 25 for you. Let's make this happen, right? Like there's still so many more that we can make it happen with. I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking to create a union, inshallah.
Yeah.
But when the brother simply ghosts and disappears for 6 months and leaves you with a horrible experience and you embarrassed and apologizing to that sister's family and stuff like that, you're like, man, I'm never going to deal with you again.
In these 5 years, that has happened to me so many times. And But just to prove that we don't take those verses to heart as a community and make this one of the things that used to always amaze me when I would tell people we're trying to find a wife for this guy. So you don't know how many times I would hear this. Oh, I don't do that. I don't get involved in marriages and these because if it fails, they come blame me.
Why would
First
they blame
of all,
you?
when has that happened in human history that someone 12 years later got a divorce and came knocked on your door and said, you hooked me up with the sister and look, we got a divorce. First of all, it doesn't happen. Okay,
it doesn't.
But wallahi, for me, it was like it was our dream to unite,
of course,
to complete total, and we did it once in these 5 years. We just did once.
That you what?
We completely, like, she has a friend, I had a friend. We knew their personalities well, and we introduced them, and they clicked perfectly well, and they got married. It was such a great feeling, and I understand people are like, oh, I don't, because then they'll blame. When has that ever happened?
No, I had a couple of couples, alhamdulillah, that I was able to introduce completely, like a good amount.
Nice.
Not a good amount, but
so
like
people should contact you then for this stuff.
Wallahi, Shaykh, I love to do it, but
yo, head up.
Again, that
at Ammar al-Shukri.
No, it's people that I know to some degree. Like I remember one time I was on a flight. I just got onto an airplane and just connected two people that in my head that I was just randomly, and then I just messaged them. Alhamdulillah, they got married. And then when they had a kid, I was like, ka-ching, because that's daily ajr. Yeah. You're literally every single day that they're married, you're inshallah ta'ala, you're receiving a reward for it. You protected
become the godfather.
Hey man,
right?
Do we have that concept?
No, we don't.
but some level of that, because within, like, I know it's I guess somewhat of a Christian concept where it's fundamentally what it's saying, that if anything were to happen to the parents, they would come and be like the foster type.
20-some years ago, someone, a coworker, made me a godfather of his. I had to look it up. Like, what is this? What do I do? And I thought it was like going to run the mafia or something. Godfather. I know what. I heard of that.
Ibn al-Qayyim mentions the story in Ad-Da' Ad-Dawa. He mentions the story of Zulaykha, this righteous woman worshiper, who was on her way to Hajj. And when she was in, I think, Mina, she hears this guy reciting incredibly like love poetry. This guy's got it bad. And before that, when she was on her way, she saw those verses written on like one of the walls, like on a mountainside or something like that. And she was just like, she was so touched by the verses. Yeah. She was just amazed. And then she heard the same verses in Mina that this guy is reciting. So she has her people go and find this guy and brings him. And it turns out the guy, he's like, oh, it was nothing. She's like, no, tell me your story. And he said, you know, I'm in love with my cousin, and for whatever reason, her family is insisting that they're not going to marry her. And she said, okay, after Hajj, we're going to go. So she went after Hajj with her entourage, and they went to this guy's village. Her people, her family, whoever she went to Hajj with.
She wasn't alone.
Yeah. So she went with them to that person's village, and she met his cousin. And Ibn al-Qayyim says his cousin was even more in love with him than he was with her.
Oh, wow.
But they were just, and so Zulaykha, she told her, the girls,
exactly.
So the girl's family, she kept insisting and they were like, no, for whatever reason.
Oh, it was the guy's family that was rejecting?
It was her family that was the girl's family.
Okay.
And so she just kept offering more money, like money. Yeah.
Okay.
More money, until finally they agreed and they got married. And Ibn al-Qayyim says she considered that to be one of her greatest deeds, that she helped those two get married. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to be able to
look at the attitude where she doesn't even know either of them.
Yeah.
And she's willing, and that's what the verse is calling for. People spend and help people get married. You know?
I'm just wondering how much money she spent.
No idea.
She goes to her family, y'all need to cough it up now.
She's like, I paid the mahar on your behalf.